everyone, it's Miss Terry, and I'm here today to talk about some new books that we have at the library for kids in grades 4th through 6th. Now, if you've just stumbled across this video, I do want to apologize. I am going to have a short pause between each book because I'm using this video for a different purpose, so I apologize for that. But if you are interested in putting any of these books on hold, you're welcome to call the library at 793-8888, and you can place an order for any of the books that you might be interested in to pick up curbside. Or if you are using my virtual library at school, then you can click on the bookmark that's attached to each book and it will take you to the library's catalog so you can place an item on hold. Or you can click on the link at the bottom of the library to have Miss Terry deliver one of the books to you. Now, you do have to have a library card in order to check out one of the books, but I really hope that you will enjoy these book talks and you might see something that you're interested in reading. We're going to go through some fiction, and then I have a couple of new graphic novels, and then a short collection of nonfiction books as well. So let's begin. This first book is called Camp Average by Craig Battle, and this is the story of Mac. And Mac every summer goes to Camp Avalon, which is a sports camp that he enjoys. And he meets up with his friends, and he's kind of looking forward to kind of a lazy summer, doing what they always do, which is lose. They never win any of the games that they play, which is why they've renamed the camp, nicknamed the camp Camp Average. And that's kind of how he and his friends like it. It's kind of no pressure. They get to play some games and just have a good time. Well, this summer, the camp has a new director named Winston, and he is determined that they are going to win something this year. Now, Mac and his friends are not having it, especially after Winston cancels all the non-competitive sports, including Mac's favorite water sports. Well, Mac and his friends decide that they are going to spoil Winston's plans, and they are going to lose like they have never lost before. If you are a big fan of Big Nate or Diary of a Wimpy Kid, you probably will enjoy Camp Average by Craig Battle. Danny Constantino's First and Maybe Last Date by Paul Acampora, and I apologize if I've mispronounced any of these author names. But this is the story about a boy named Danny, and his childhood friend, Natalie Flores Griffin, has just gone off to Hollywood and made it big. She's a huge star, but she's coming home in time for their first homecoming dance, and Danny has plucked up the courage and asked her to go with him. Surprisingly, she has said yes, so he's very excited, very nervous. This will be his first date, and his mom is thrilled because she's trying to be the town's mayor. And so she's in the middle of this election, and she's hoping that she can use some of the publicity of Natalie coming home to help her campaign. And of course, he's also going to have to navigate the groupies that follow Natalie around and the entire town's uproar that this celebrity is coming back to town. And there's also, of course, a giant cardboard unicorn. So you'll have to read to find out where that happens in the story. But if you're looking for a laugh out loud with a little bit of light romance, this is a good choice for you. Notorious by Gordon Corman is the story of Keenan, who's just moved to Centerlight, which is kind of a strange area right between Canada and the United States. And it has kind of a nefarious past, as during the Prohibition era, it was used by gangsters and smugglers to ferry goods back and forth over the border. Well, Keenan is, dealing with a new move, which is scary in and of itself, and he meets his next door neighbor, whose nickname is ZB, and ZB is really enamored with her town's past, and she really enjoys all the mystery and intrigue that she has been studying about Centerlight's past. But she also has just lost her big dog, Barney, and she's convinced he's been murdered, and she wants Keenan to help her find out what happened to him. Well, it doesn't take long before Keenan realizes that nobody in the town really liked ZB's dog, Barney. He was big, he was caused a lot of trouble, so he feels like it's going to be hard to kind of figure out who did something to her dog. But as they dig deeper and deeper, they realize it might be connected to the town's past, and now somebody is after them. A Field Guide to Getting Lost by Joy McCullough is a story of two young adults, Sutton and Lewis. The story is told from alternating viewpoints. Every chapter it switches between the two characters. And Sutton is kind of a scientifically minded young lady. She's really into coding and robots. And Lewis is not. He's practically the complete opposite. He's very gentle. He likes to write stories. And he's deathly afraid of a lot of things. He doesn't get out very much because he prefers the safety of staying at home. He's also allergic to bees, so that also kind of puts him off from the outdoors. Well, Sutton and Lewis's parents have decided to start dating. And so now they're trying to navigate what this is going to mean between the two of them. Can they be friends and maybe eventually even siblings? Are they going to be able to get along? And then the family decides to go on a camping trip. So this already puts Lewis kind of on edge, but he's got this great spirit of, you know what, I'm just going to give it a try. I'm going to be brave and do what I need to do. Well, the two of them end up getting lost in the woods, and this is a surefire way to make sure whether or not they're going to make it as friends or possibly even someday siblings. Me versus the Multiverse by S.G. Wilson. The subtitle for this is Pleased to Meet Me, because this is a story of Mead, and it all starts with a secret note that he receives on an origami octopus, and the note says it's from himself. Well, he's like, what is going on? Is this real? I thought I was the only one who knew how to fold this origami. In fact, Mead is convinced that he's the one who invented this origami fold. Well, it turns out that there are multiple parallel universes, and in each one there's a different version of yourself. And he's just been invited to MeCon and an opportunity to meet all the other versions of himself. So this is the story of what happens when he decides to go. What would you think about meeting other versions of yourself? Would you like them or would you not like them? This is definitely a laugh out loud kind of a story. Brave Like That by Lindsay Stoddard is a story of Cyrus. And Cyrus was left on the doorstep of his town's fire station when he was a baby, and he was adopted by kind of the town's hero and ex-football star. His dad is now currently a fireman and does a lot of great deeds, is kind of one of those, athletic, strong, brave kind of guy. And Cyrus doesn't really feel like he fits into that. Now he's trying to figure out how to navigate middle school. He's the only sixth grader in his class, at least he thinks he's the only sixth grader in his class that can't read a book all the way through by himself. He doesn't really like how his two friends are treating the new kid who's just come to town. Football tryouts are next week, and he's not really sure he wants to even bother trying out. It's not really his thing. He'd much prefer being involved in music. And then a dog shows up at the fire station, and his dad has a very strict no pet policy. And Cyrus is hoping that he'll be able to change his dad's mind, and he'll be able to keep the dog, he'll be able to keep his friends, but really stand up for what's right. It's called Brave Like That. Tune It Out is the story by Jamie Summer of a girl named Lou. And Lou's mom says that Lou has the voice of an angel, and she does love music and singing, and she is very good at it. But what she really doesn't like is she doesn't like crowds, she doesn't like loud noises, she doesn't even like high fives. She has a lot of worries about different things that are happening in her world. Well, her mom kind of forces her to perform in all of these different places around the state, and they're basically living out of her mom's truck. Well, one night, mom decides to let Lou drive, and Lou crashes the truck. And Children's Services steps in and takes Lou away and sends her to live with her aunt and uncle far away across the country. And it's at a very her aunt and uncle send her to a private school that's very posh, but she also gets to see a counselor while she's there, and she kind of realizes why she has some issues and some of her fears. And then she also gets to kind of start to look at her relationship with her mom and how maybe she can tell her mom, these are the things that I am not comfortable with, and I would like to stop. So this is called Tune It Out. Definitely a feel good story. Things Seen from Above by Shelley Pearsall is a story of April, and she is in 6th grade, and she is kind of over the drama in the lunchroom at school, and she's trying to kind of get away from it. So she volunteers to sit on the buddy bench during the 4th grade recess. And the buddy bench, if you're not familiar with that, is that if a child is feeling that they need a buddy, they can come sit down at the bench, and then they can talk to whoever else is sitting on the bench. And it's just kind of a way to help kids when they're feeling lonely. Well, as April's sitting there every day during lunchtime, she sees this boy named Joey Bird, and he's just wandering kind of around the playground, always dragging his foot in the dirt, kind of talking to himself a little bit, and she's just kind of been watching him. And one day she realizes that he's he's not just making random lines in the dirt, but he's actually creating beautiful pieces of artwork that can only be seen from far above. And this is the story of April and Joey. Monster and Boy by Hannah Barnaby is the first in a 3-part series about a young boy. We never really learn his name or the name of the monster that lives under his bed. Well, the monster under his bed hears the boy's mom say one day that there's no such thing as monsters, and the monster's like, what are you talking about? There is too. So he decides to pluck up the courage to come out from underneath the bed and meet the boy. Well, the boy screams, it startles the monster, and the monster swallows him. And that is the beginning of this beautiful friendship. Scare Me by K.R. Alexander. Now this is definitely a step up from Goosebumps. So if you're a big Goosebumps fan and you feel like you're ready for a little bit more horror, this is definitely a good choice for you. And this is the story of a town called Happy Hills, and every year they have a haunted house contest in which groups of teenagers get together in this abandoned mansion to create a haunted house, and they have to try to come up with ways to be the scariest. Well, what they don't realize is this year the house has awakened, and it has decided it's not going to be happy until it's devoured everyone in the place. Might want to read this one with the lights on. Scare Me. So those are the fiction books that I'm going to talk about today. Now let's talk about some of the new graphic novels. This one is called Batman Overdrive. It's a new one from the DC series about a young teenage Bruce Wayne, and he is still having a lot of guilt over the death of his parents, and he's trying to figure out what happened to them and who's responsible for their death. And he decides that he's going to rebuild his dad's very first car, and as he's scouring the underbelly of Gotham City looking for clues to his parents' death, he's also looking for the car parts that he needs to rebuild this car. Along the way, he's going to start to make some friends that he's never thought that he'd have before, and he's realizing that there's something more to this car, and it actually, and I'm not spoiling anything by telling you this, it actually becomes the first Batmobile. This is the first in this series, Batman Overdrive. Zatanna and the House of Secrets is also out of the DC universe. It's definitely, Zatanna is one of the DC superheroes that you may not have heard a lot about before. She later becomes a member of the Justice League, but this is kind of her in the beginning. And her magician dad live in the House of Secrets, which has magic and puzzles and mysterious doors and storybook creatures. And she is an interesting girl. She doesn't have tons of friends, but one day she stands up to a bully at school, causes a little bit of trouble, ends up coming home and discovers that her father has disappeared, and now she's going to use everything at her disposal to find out what happened to him. If you like graphic novels like the Amulet series, you probably would enjoy this one as well. Very excited about this next one, Geronimo Stilton, the graphic novel. If you are a huge Geronimo Stilton or Tia Stilton fan, you definitely are going to enjoy this one. This one is called The Sewer Rat Stink, and this now is in graphic novel format. And Geronimo is trying to figure out why Mouse City smells so very, very badly. There's a new smell in town, and it is, it's gross. So Geronimo and Hercule go into the sewers to investigate. If you are a big fan of Dogman, you're definitely going to like Geronimo's new graphic novel. And this looks like it's going to be the first in a new series for Geronimo. Cody by Jared Cullum is a graphic novel about a girl named Katya, and every summer she goes to a cabin in Alaska, and this year she meets Cody, who is a very gentle grizzly bear with a very kind heart, and they become really great friends over the summer. So that when Katya decides, well, doesn't decide, she has to go back to school in Seattle, Cody decides he's going to go and find her. And this is the story of the epic adventure of a giant bear coming to Seattle to find the girl that is his friend. Again, it's graphic novel format. This next one is called Beach Nightmare. It's a little bit on the shorter side, but definitely on the scary side. And this is Beach Nightmare by Steve Fox. And this is about a girl named Emma who had a lovely summer on the beach until she lost her cell phone. And at first she doesn't question it when it mysteriously reappears at her house back home. But she then discovers that it's not acting quite right. There's something a little bit off of it. It's just not quite right. And she realized that something has followed her home from her vacation. Beach Nightmare. Great illustrations. I don't know, sometimes I can read scary books. I don't necessarily want to watch them or look at pictures of them. But if you like that kind of thing, you're going to enjoy Beach Nightmare. Those are some of the graphic novels. Next, let's talk a little bit about some nonfiction. This first one is called How to Be a Math Wizard. And this has games, puzzles, recipes, activities that you can do all involving math. They have things like a spinning snack decider, how to make your own money, how to create a marble run using things that you have all around your house, and also explaining simple math concepts. If you're just a math nerd in general, you probably would enjoy this, but if you also like making projects while you're learning things, this is also a good choice for you. It's very vibrant illustrations and pictures with very laid out plan. There's the picture of the snack spinner decider. Always have a hard time when you get home from school. What should I eat today? Well, this is an idea that will help you decide. It's a Numbers Game. Basketball is a book that looks at basketball from every angle, all based on numbers. Like what best shots, how big is your jump shot, how far away is the three-pointer line, what are the highest scoring games. So if you really like kind of those sports trivia, if you really like all those statistics, this is definitely a good choice for you. It talks about a lot of really great basketball players in there too. So if you're just a basketball fan, you probably will enjoy it as well. But it also gives you some pointers if you're hoping to improve your jump shot, or if you're hoping to figure out ways to become a better player. It has some ideas in there for you as well. Our Dogs, Ourselves by Alexandra Horowitz is a story about dogs. And if you have a dog, if you are a dog lover, you probably will enjoy this story. But it really looks about why human beings treat dogs the way that they do. Why on one hand do we treat them as beloved pets, give them names, let them sleep in our beds, and yet we have hundreds and thousands of dogs roaming the world, living on the streets, starving, or going into shelters. Why is there such a difference in how we treat our man's best friend? So that is Our Dogs, Ourselves. I have two new books that go along with Minecraft. These are Minecraft STEM Challenge. This one is Build a City, and this one is Build a Theme Park. And both of these books give you step-by-step instructions on how to build the different pieces. In the Build a City, it also includes instructions on how to use Minecraft to build a haunted house. And then in Build a Theme Park, you'll have tips and tricks on how to do things like Ferris wheels and roller coasters and all those things. So if you've kind of been playing Minecraft for a while and you're looking for a new challenge, I would highly recommend the STEM challenges, because they'll just give you some new ideas on how to build some things. Earth-shattering events. This is a look at natural disasters, things like volcanoes, earthquakes, cyclones, tsunamis. One of the reasons that I pulled it, because it also talks a lot about wildfires, something that we're dealing with out west right now. And it talks kind of about the causes. It talks about different forms of all of these natural disasters. It also gives you tips and tricks on how to survive them and what kind of things that you should do. And it also looks at natural disasters throughout time. So when was the worst volcano eruption? What are some of the different tornadoes that have ravaged our planet? It's kind of a neat format. It has lots of great pictures. So this one in particular is showing you the biggest and the worst, and it's talking about tsunamis and where they were located. This last one is called Dung for Dinner by Christine Verning. I have to read you the subtitle on this one. A stomach-churning look at the animal poop, pee, vomit, and secretions that people have eaten and often still do. One of the things I love about this book, it has a great warning in the beginning. It says some quick legal mumbo jumbo. Just because this book discusses eating camel poop and ox snot and astronaut pee, this does not mean you should go out and chew down on camel poop or ox snot or astronaut pee. This book is meant to be fun and gross and hopefully a bit educational. It is not meant to be a recipe book or medical handbook. So just because you're reading about it, don't go out there and start eating poop and pee, because that would be very disgusting. But this book looks at all of the gross things that people have tried. One of the things I love that they talk about in this book is who was the first person to decide, I think I'm going to eat that and see if that tastes any good. But it talks about how throughout history, people used to use pee to whiten their teeth. I don't know if you know this, but astronaut poop gets shot out into space in a little canister. It gets shot back towards Earth, where hopefully it gets burned up in the Earth's atmosphere. But it also talks about things like peanut butter. Did you know that the FDA allows up to 29 insect parts per 100 grams? So the chance of there being a cockroach leg in your peanut butter is probably pretty good. And then there's a really disgusting chapter about beaver butt secretions, or what they call it is beaver butt slime, and how it's used to flavor ice cream and chewing gum and things like that. Luckily, it's very rare. It doesn't happen very often, so you don't need to start throwing away the things in your cabinet. But if you really enjoy reading about the disgusting things that human beings have done, you will definitely enjoy Dung for Dinner. Enjoy.